This is a test of the Boundary Park alert system. Hello and welcome to the Boundary Park alert system with me, Matt Dean, and Andy Halliwell. How are you, Andy?
Yeah, I'm all right, you?
Well, I was just saying to the fun guest there, I've got a bit of a sniffle. So I've got a box of tissues next to me, but the way things are at the minute, those tissues might well be being used for tears if I get over emotional from just the state of things at the minute on the pitch. The results, the performances are not quite tear-inducing, but they're not exactly great, are they? I was just thinking then, bearing in mind which guest we've got on, we could just do like a solid Latics Mind hour. Have we got enough questions to do that?
Yeah,
give him a proper challenge, and we can just ignore the football. Then, what do you reckon?
Yeah, it'd be more fun than talking about football.
I know. Yeah. Shall we? Do you want to do the returning guest questions then? People might have an inkling of stuff who it is already.
Yeah. I think this is I think you've been on once a season. This is your fifth appearance, I think.
Yeah, I've gone nap.
Yeah, exactly.
What does that mean? You've gone nap?
You get 5, isn't it?
Yeah.
Score 5 goals in a game, you've gone nap.
Nap, yeah.
I don't know. Who was the last player to score 5 in a game for Latics, Paddy?
Oh, bloody hell. Would it have been Bun?
Yeah, that
probably was,
yeah. It probably was, yeah. That's probably why I'm not familiar with the term.
Yeah, it's gone nap 5, yeah. Well, you've just given him away, but Evan, I reckon.
I always do, don't I? I always do.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, crack on.
Every week. When was your most recent game, fan guest?
It was yesterday, Tamworth 1, Oldham 1.
Excellent. And you also went to Boston in midweek, I believe. So you've got
a double header.
Set. Perfect. Fan guest to have on to talk about it then. Who is your current favourite Latics player?
36, Andy. I don't have a favourite player.
Who are your kids' favourite players?
Lundstrom. They like Lundstrom.
Fair enough. And I know your kids have recently been mascots, haven't they? So you can tell us a bit about that. That'll be quite good to hear about. What is your favourite recent related Latics memory?
Probably the Sutton game, actually, that you've just mentioned. Obviously, the game was pretty garbage, but Alfie and Bobby were mascot for that game, so that was nice. We had a nice day of it, apart from between 3 and 5.
Standard.
And have you got a fifth? Although I don't think we were doing it when you first came on. A fifth unknown fact about yourself.
So it's not so much about me, but more about my parents. So the day my mum and dad got married, between their service and their wedding reception, they actually went to Huddersfield to watch Oldham play Huddersfield.
What score was it?
1-1-0.
Nice. They were the days. Winning the games. Well, everyone's heard who it is. Welcome back, Paddy Harwood, current Latics Mind reigning champion. You'll be put through your paces later. I have not stitched them up. They have come out of the Paul Prendergast computer as normal. I've had a quick flick down. It's a couple of difficult ones in there, but I imagine you'll be all right.
Yeah, I thought about that when you said we are having him back on, Andy. I thought, do we stitch him up with the questions and put him through the paper? It's not fair, is it?
Not fair, is it?
They come out how they come out, don't they? So
I believe you.
Yeah. No, honestly, it's absolutely. I didn't even give myself easy questions, so I mean that would have been the best way. And Dave struggled. Anyway, have you done it yet, Andy? You haven't, have you?
No.
We need to get some special questions though, because you do have access to the questions, so that would need doing. But maybe Paddy could do some questions for you. Actually, that would be a good way.
He's welcome to if he wants.
Yeah. Anyway, I went to Boston on Tuesday. Similar to you, Paddy, stayed over there, went out for nice tea. As in similar to Sutton, where everything was good, but the football sort of thing. Had a nice trip over there, but didn't go to Tamworth. Went to see Doves on Friday night at the Aviva Studios, which was really, really good. Had a few pints. Had a kind of a late-ish night, early-ish start. So I was quite sleepy. So the point I'm getting to is I didn't see the whole game because I fell asleep on the couch, which I think is quite, I was tired, but also it was a poor enough game of football that you were going to fall asleep should you be lying on the couch as opposed to stood in the sunshine on the terrace. The obvious question for you, Paddy, as someone who's at both games is, was there any difference between Tuesday and Saturday? Was there any improvements? Did any of the changes that Mickey Mellon made give you inspiration for the upcoming 3 important home games against Eastleigh, Rochdale and Halifax? How would you assess the week that was in Latics world?
There wasn't much difference between the games. It was very uninspiring. The creativity, or should I say the lack of creativity, is a massive, massive concern. We just don't seem to be able to thread that ball through and play between the lines. And I know it's a football cliche that people don't like, but other teams seem capable of doing that against us. And some people say we don't have a plan B, and I think that's being very generous because I'm not actually sure we've got a plan A at the moment. It's insipid at times, and that's been the case Tuesday and Saturday. The midfield too. So on Tuesday it was Conlon and Pett, and yesterday it was Pett and Rossiter. Rossiter treats the ball like a hot potato. I don't think he found a blue shirt all game. Pett is taking too many touches of the ball. He's taking 5 or 6 when it can be done. Is he
taking lots of touches of the ball? This is my reading the situation when I watch. I watched the Boston game and I listened to the second half on the radio yesterday. I'll explain why I didn't go yesterday if you want to hear it. But when I'm watching him take too many touches of the ball because there's no movement in front of him.
I think there's an element of that, but also, it wasn't that long ago where when he first came into the team, there still wasn't a lot of movement and he was making things happen. And he seems to have kind of been latixed, and he's regressed a little bit into. He's a lovely footballer. He does keep hold of the ball, but it slows things down. And I thought the same of Conlon on Tuesday when he came back into the team. Jez, I was going to say looks worse than he did before he left us, but he wasn't very good in the first place. And I think that reeks of desperation recalling him. Dan Gardner, I don't understand. Mickey Mellon said on Friday that we've got players that cannot play on a 4G pitch, and then Dan Gardner manages to get back in the squad again. He's probably our most injury-prone player. Norwood yesterday was wheeled out onto that pitch. He pulled up after about 5 minutes. He was struggling for the rest of the game. The tactics are... I don't even know what the tactics are at the moment. It's like we're playing for throw-ins, but the throw-ins aren't coming to anything. Mike Fondop wins every ball in our own box, but seems incapable of winning balls in the opposition box. And then that's another point. Andy, it's no secret, I am not a big fan of his whatsoever, but he has been absolutely hung out to dry by this manager and this coaching team. He's playing 90 minutes every game, and he shouldn't be. And the reason he's playing 90 minutes is because he can defend throw-ins, he can defend corners. He's been blowing out of his arse every single game for the last 4 or 5 weeks, and he needs a rest. He needs to be taken off, and we're so reliant and dependent on him at both ends of the boxes, but primarily at the moment, the way we're playing, we're more reliant on him as a defender. And I feel like he's being seriously stitched up. He was rubbish yesterday. He was absolutely rubbish, but he's been hung out to dry. And I've actually got a lot of empathy with him over it. And, it takes a lot for me to say that about Fondop because I'm not his biggest fan by any stretch.
Oh, look, it
was great.
We've talked about this to infinitum over previous weeks. Look, like Mike Fondop has scored 15 goals this season, and he plays with his heart on his sleeve. And he obviously loves playing for the club. He's got a great rapport with the fans in general. And whenever I got games at Dagenham, me and my 2 lads are singing his song. We're supporting him, cheering him, encouraging him. I'm not getting on his back at all. It's not like you say. It's not his fault that he is being asked to lead our line and also defend it in a 18-yard box at corners and free kicks and throw-ins and what have you. And he's done remarkably well for a man with his ability. That's how I look at it. I just think that if we're trying to get promoted out of this league, we need a striker who's more mobile, who's quicker, and will make runs that the likes of Pett and Conlon and whoever may be in the middle of the park and try and thread balls through. to, and that's not his game. He's a big number 9. He's a big muscular number 9 who tries to win the ball and flick on for other people to run off him. And so we look pretty static to me. And like you say, it's slow. Whenever you watch this, it's just the pedestrian passing through, because there's just not much going on. We're not bombing down the wings very much. There's not much movement in front, so it's sideways and back. You can't. Fondop, I would probably say, is our player of the season. And if I'm voting for player of the season, I'm voting for Mike Fondop as our player of the season. But I'm capable of holding two thoughts at the same time. One, which is that Mike Fondop has done it exceptionally well, and two, I think we need better than Mike Fondop.
I think if we had recruited, bearing in mind that we've got Willoughby, Nuttall, and Reed out on loan, that's a separate issue, isn't it? We're desperate for strikers. We've got 3 out on loan. I think if Fondop was desperate to score yesterday. He was trying overhead kicks and shots. He was desperate to score. He's not scored for a while because the team haven't scored for a while, and his endeavour and his desperation to be the goal scorer, to be the hero, to score goals for Latics, to please the fans and everything else was, again, like you said, totally commendable. But he was doing things that were, just not going to come off. But that's because we weren't creating proper chances again. So he was likely to, try things that were a bit, unlikely to actually come to anything. We've been saying this for weeks now, for months now, because this has been the same story, hasn't it, since the start of the year. So nothing has changed. And that's why I was asking Paddy about what your views were from Boston to Tamworth. We'll listen to Mickey in a minute, but regardless of what he says, the way that he's setting up in that kind of 4-3-3, it's not really, is it? Because Fondop is up front on his own. I think Jorgen Nathan was supposed to be sort of in behind Fondop yesterday, and then there was 2 wide players. Again, do we need 2 sitting midfielders in this division? I don't think we do. I really don't think we do. Can't we play with fullbacks that really bomb on? They don't have to be wing backs, but they can be fullbacks that can get forward, especially if you're playing with 2 holding midfielders, because then you can drop and have cover at the back. The thing that really disgusted me yesterday was the fact that when we went 1-0 up, we got a penalty. I think it was a fair penalty. I think it was a foul. I think we also had a shout for one before that wasn't given. That goal should have meant we won the game. That was it. That penalty was it. 1-0. That should have been it. We gave it, whether the ball went over the line or not, it was another soft goal. Given too much time to put a good ball in. Didn't defend it. Game over. So that's what pissed me off about yesterday, was that we got a lifeline and we couldn't even see it through to half time to go in 1-0 up. It was 1-1 and that was it. We lost the points again when we desperately needed a win yesterday. So everything that we were doing earlier on in the season, which was keeping it tight, not conceding stupid goals, we're just not doing it anymore. And in terms of the personnel, we had Hobson and Raglan and Ogle and Kitchen. We've got all, some of our first choice defenders in there, and we're still giving away stupid goals. So I don't know what has gone so horribly wrong. We've had injuries, but is that enough of an excuse? Is it the recruitment that has really let us down? Is it the manager's lack of flexibility in terms of formation? Is it coaching during the week? Has anyone got any insights?
It must be a mixture of all of the above. It has to be. The recruitment went back in kind of January, wasn't it? When he was signing all these midfielders, reeked of scattergun at the time and reeked of panic. The signing of Billy Waters, I didn't understand at the time. And I'm thinking now that Mellon doesn't understand it because he didn't even get on the pitch yesterday when we needed a goal. Billy Waters has always been a 1 in 6, 1 in 7 striker, and when he did sign, I was really concerned about the way that we were going. The injuries have affected. I get that, and there's no getting away from it. We've lost some key players there, but the injuries have been too frequent for it to be an accident. It feels like there must be a reason why there's so many injuries going on at the moment. It can't just be bad luck. I don't know whether it's the training, whether it's the kind of rehab after it, and taking on the fluids or whatever. I mean, Norwood and Garner have missed pre-season, which has set them back straight away. Norwood's not been able to get back into the swing of it, but these injuries are happening far too frequently for it to be an accident.
Well, for me, the injury list is a direct effect of having a lot of aged players in the squad. Probably Mon's injury is like the unluckiest, probably. But Conlon had a really...
Maybe.
Yeah, say again?
Hudson maybe as well.
Yeah, Hudson as well. Yeah, they're kind of freak injuries that any you could have in the season. But it's not really a surprise that Dan Gardner's been injured. It's not really a surprise that Tom Conlon's got an Achilles injury or Achilles problem because he had a bad Achilles injury at Port Vale. It's not a surprise that Garner and Norwood can't see a full season out because they're 70-year-old between them. It's like that's the thing for me is you've got a lot of players in there that come into the end of the career that their bodies have been through a lot and they're going to break down, and that's what you risk when you sign former Football League players with a history of injuries.
Yeah, I think before I think obviously there's the sort of like there's two things here, isn't there? There's the where we are now, and then there's the sort of bigger picture sort of stuff. So I think before we come on to the bigger picture stuff, let's just have a little bit more of a think about where we are right now and listen to Mickey Mellon's assessment of yesterday's draw at Tamworth.
Mickey, how do you reflect on that 90 minutes?
Just like I thought it was going to be. It was going to be about dealing with the long throw and the set plays, and we did that. We did that really well. I think you have to give the team credit for doing that. First half, I thought we played some decent football and definitely deserved to be going in front. And I'm 100% sure that the linesman guessed that the ball went over the line. You can't see it from there. The goalkeeper said it isn't. But second half, it's a really tough place. Regardless of when you come here, that long throws coming in your box every time that they get in your half, you've got to stand up in the counter to go and deal with it. Then if a set play comes from that, you've got to go and deal with that. And all day the players dealt with that. We tried everything we could to try and get the win. We threw people on to try and get it with a few little bits and pieces, maybe Jez's one and Dan's one we probably want to do a wee bit better with. But it was a real tough game and a real difficult place to come in on a surface that we're not used to. That's the facts. But we'll keep that board ticking over and just keep going forward.
You touched on the goal. You can tell from the players at the time it was contentious. I take it you didn't think he crossed the line?
I think he guessed. I don't believe that he can see that from there. I think he's guessed. And I think there was a lot of guessing going on today. I think it was a really disappointing officials, referees performance. I think it was as poor as what I've seen. We've come into the game with so many yellow cards, and I don't know why it wasn't even that type of game. But that's in isolation. Our performance, battling, showed a lot of character. Did we play flowing football? No. Did anybody? No. But it is a difficult. They've got a difficult weapon to deal with. That long throw is going to cause any team problems, as you've seen when even Tottenham came here. It caused them problems, so it's going to cause them the problems because you've got to go and deal with it, and that's what the players did. Went all out to try and get the win, but listen, just keep calm and just keep going.
We had chances to possibly have got a second, Dan Gardner and Jez in particular.
Yeah, I thought they were good chances, but then they'll be disappointed that he's made the keeper made a save for the big moments in these types of games, and we weren't able to capitalise on it. But battling and sticking their head in the way and determination, I thought they showed real good character today, the players, and I'm pleased with that. And we obviously want to play and win every game that we take part in, but listen, it wasn't meant to be today.
A couple of changes today, as you said yesterday. Was that with the pitch in mind?
Yeah, some can't play in it. So Lundstrom couldn't play in it. Conlon can't play in it. Then I've got 3 that's ill that can't be here. So I don't know if there's any more ill, but there was some definitely. They 2 can't play on the surface. they have an effect on it. Then Norwood done for a wee bit, which is a bonus, and hopefully we can get a wee bit more up that top end of the pitch with 10 games to go. We'll need the important players to come back.
Just finally, 2 important home games now coming up this week.
Is it 3 home?
3 at home.
3 home games. They're all important now. It's 10 to go. 10 to go. Keep your head. There'll be strange results going all over the place. The important thing is that you take what you can get. Try and win every game, but you take what you can get and make sure that you try and keep that scoreboard ticking over. And we'll keep trying to improve things and keep trying to get victories. But obviously, disappointed we weren't able to get the victory that we wanted to get today. But like I said, the players showed tremendous character.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Is Mickey Mellon coming away with the same thoughts that we are there then, do you think, Paddy? Was that your assessment of yesterday?
No, I think he's taking the piss out of us, Matt. I really do. He's set up petrified against Tamworth because they've got a long throw-in. I don't understand the logic of what he's going on about. He's going to draw our way out of the playoffs if he carries on. He's obsessed with this points tally ticking over. We are going to draw ourselves out of the playoff picture if this carries on, which is exactly what happened last year, which is why everybody is getting so worked up and so annoyed. People can see history repeating itself. I don't get why we've got certain players that can't play on 3G, 4G, but the most injury-prone player that we've had in the last 5-10 years is back on the pitch in terms of Dan Gardner.
I did find that a curious thing to say in the lead up to the game in his presser. Like, some players can't play on it, and I was trying to work out whether he meant because of injury or he meant they're just not capable of playing on a 4G pitch. Like,
it's got to be injury, hasn't it? I mean,
why is Lundstrom not? Why is Lundstrom listed in that as one of the players that can't play on it? Is that because of injury? Because I get Conlon, right? You know, he's got an Achilles injury. He's had tendonitis. You know,
is Lundstrom one of those players, or was he one of those that's ill? Was he? Because he said 3 players. He said 3 players are ill, didn't he? Did he?
No, but he said Lundstrom can't play on 4G in that. Then Lundstrom and Conlon.
Did he?
Yeah, Lundstrom and Conlon can't play on 3. And so,
well, has Lundstrom been carrying something though? Because he's not been getting sort of full games, and I think maybe that's Lundstrom must be carrying some kind of an injury, or he's not quite right because he's not been getting full 90 minutes. He keeps getting brought off after an hour, and even when he's doing all right. So I think there is an issue.
Surely all professional footballers are capable of playing on all surfaces because they're
it must be. No, it's got to be an injury.
Yeah.
It's not that he can't play on it because his legs go to jelly when he walks on it, or he doesn't like the texture or something like that. I don't, So do you think?
Well, can I ask Paddy a question?
Yeah, of course.
So Paddy was quite critical of you and I. He's grinning now because he knows what I'm going to say. He was quite critical of you and I when we were discussing on the podcast prior to Mellon's appointment that we didn't think that Mellon was the future of Oldham Athletic. And what we were referring to at that point was it wasn't a young progressive coach coming in to try and set a culture at the club for the long term. Paddy was quite critical of us by saying correct me if I get the wrong words, Paddy, but broadly you were saying that you thought he was the right appointment because he had 5 promotions before, or at least 3 out of this league or 2 out of this league or whatever, and he was the right appointment and we were wrong broadly. That's what you were saying. That's
exactly what I was saying, yeah. I thought he was the one with the best track record to get us out of this division. But I did say to Matt before we started, I am going to have to probably grovel a little bit because he isn't, is he? There's no getting away from the fact he is not the long-term future of where we want to be. I wouldn't part with him right now because I think then you've got to get rid of Brabin, Hogden, Davis, Liversidge. You get rid of all them, and then what do? You get Nicky Adams into the end of the season or whatever. However, if he was to be sacked, I don't think he could. I don't really think he could argue too much. But I would certainly, if I was the Rothwell family, I'd be looking at contingency plans now for the summer, whether or not we get promoted. I'd be more inclined to replace him if we actually did get promoted. Because if we go into League Two with these tactics under this coaching, regime, we're going to be in a relegation scrap next season because he's nowhere near good enough. I don't know who the answer is, and that's up to the Rothwells, Darren Royal, to go through the recruitment process, not just phone somebody that they know and ask them if they want to come in. But right now, I'd be looking at a contingency plan for the summer.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is Captain Hindsight is, Mickey Mellon referenced him. We've spoke about him before. It's easy in hindsight to say one thing or another. When a manager signs on the line to become the manager of Oldham Athletic, then I'll get behind him, even if I don't necessarily think it's the right appointment or whatever, because he's there now. And we all want the best for the club. We all want success. We want people to succeed. I'm quite happy to be wrong about stuff because I won't be giving an opinion at the time. We don't know whether we're right or wrong. It's just whatever. It made a lot of sense to have somebody with this experience. Now, the thing is, Mickey Mellon at this point in the season hasn't failed in his remit because we are still in the playoffs and we still have a chance at promotion. Now, does it look like we're going to do well in the playoffs and gain promotion based on the form? Absolutely not. Is that a reason at this point to sack the manager? Some people will argue that it is. Some people will argue that it isn't. So, again, we've all got different opinions, and that's absolutely fine. That's one of the reasons why we enjoy following football, because we can have these debates with each other. We can have these conversations with each other. It's not about who's right and who's wrong. It's about what's right and what's wrong. And the people who are responsible for making these decisions will be feeling the pressure, and they will be doing what you're saying, Paddy. They'll be having meetings. They'll be saying, look, what about next season? What are our options? And weighing it all up 100%. Will they have their finger hovering over the firing in button? I'm not sure they will at this stage in the season because we are where we are. So, it's kind of like there is a section of our fan base who are like, like toddlers in a supermarket. You know what I mean? There's only one of them there, but every fucker can hear them, right? And so there is an element of that in our fan base about, this is my opinion, and I'm going to scream and shout about it so you all know, and then maintain that that's the most popular opinion. We know that a big section of our fan base want to keep Oldham until the end of the season because they think that's the right thing to do, and we know that some people want to sack him. We will see what the board decide to do. That's always been our position, I think, shared position, Andy, is that we're going to leave it up to the board. And I think one of the things that a lot of people are talking about Darren Royal at the minute, and he comes into the crosshairs. And this is what annoys me about, I'm not going to say our fans, I'm going to say football fans and certain people in general, is they can't wait to turn both barrels onto somebody and give them loads of shit and give them loads of blame. The club these decisions about managers are not made by Darren. They're made by the board. The board make these decisions. Darren might present his own views, and he might do a bit of work. Say, look, this is what I think, and they'll take that into consideration. But it's a board decision. It's a club decision. So I don't like it when people start turning on individuals, and I don't mind people being critical of individuals because that's a different thing. It's how we go about being critical. You can be critical and be respectful, or you can be completely disrespectful. So I think at this point in the season, when we're fifth, are we still fifth? Oh, yeah, we are still fifth, just about. Halifax are breathing down our neck now. We can be critical, and fairly so, I think, absolutely. But really, we are still in a position where we want the season to end well, and it still could. So I think that becoming angry and vitriolic towards people, I don't think is in any way productive. But being critical of the situation is absolutely 100% reasonable because it's looking precarious, our playoff push, and it needs turning around. And I would take a point at Boston and I'd take a point at Tamworth if we were winning our home games. If you can take 4 points off everybody, you beat them at home, you draw away, then that's absolutely fine. You'll be comfortably in the playoffs. But that's not the case, is it? And now we got a draw at Eastleigh, which again, if you beat Eastleigh at home, is absolutely fine. You've got 4 points off Eastleigh, that's fine. Rochdale, you beat them away, you get a point off them at home, another 4 points, that's fine. Halifax, did they beat us?
We drew 1-1.
Drew.
Yeah, so we have to beat Halifax. So if that's how it plays out this week, in the next 2 weeks, beat Eastleigh, draw with Rochdale, beat Halifax. I think that'll be fine. I'll be all right with that. But we've got to turn around this home form, because it's absolutely shocking, and it's up to Mickey Mellon to do that. He's the manager. He's responsible. So going into this week now, I think this is, again, we've had it before. We had it when we were the last 3 home games on the bounce after our last 3 wins. The last win was Solihull away, and that was the last little winning run that we went on. Then we had that terrible home run, Altrincham, Sutton, and Maidenhead, where we picked up 2 points. This run now is the biggest run of the season. It's because of the clubs that are breathing down our neck, because the fact that these 3 clubs are in the chasing pack, and we failed to distance ourselves from Altrincham and Sutton. What kind of conversations are we going to be having if we pick up 3 points or 2 points again out of these 3 games? Is that going to change people's, like, as in the board and fans? Are we going to be in a different situation now where we're going to really need to be panicking? Andy, what do you think? Or do you think we stick it regardless till the end of the season?
Well, I'm with Paddy. I agree with Paddy. I don't see what stacking 5 backroom staff and putting an interim in charge between now and the end of the season is going to achieve. I don't think it's going to materially change the success on the pitch. And it's going to cost a lot of money, ultimately, out of this and next year's budget in the process. You'd be better off waiting until the summer and then having a bit of a review about how it goes, good or bad, and then coming to a more sort of, cold-hearted decision at that point. And if they decide to all part ways because it's not working, then fair enough. I just don't think that it's going to make much difference in the short term with only 10 games to go. With the players, the inability to recruit anyone who's going to make much difference, and maybe managers that are not wanting to come in for that short period of time or are unavailable currently or whatever. So I don't see any reason why they would do that, and I don't expect them to do that. So he's here to the end of the season. And he has got, a litany of promotions, and so he's going to have to show us what experience he's got and how he can use that experience to the benefit in this running. And he has to finish in the playoffs, and we have to compete in the playoffs, don't we? Can't just go out with a whimper either. We've got to compete, even if we don't go up. We've got to look like we're able to. So I don't see anything changing, and I wouldn't change it either for those reasons. When it gets to the summer, maybe. I think the sort of like the personal attacks on Darren Royal are a bit moronic, if I'm honest. You can criticise Darren Royal for the appointment of David Unsworth because it was clearly like a royal endorsement in inverted commas. But this one is not a specific Darren Royal choice. This was a board decision, and therefore he doesn't take 100% responsibility for that. Also, equally, the recruitment policy since Mickey Mellon has been in is entirely Mickey Mellon's recruitment team. Terry McPhillips was brought in as opposed to Steve Thompson being appointed by the Royals. So I think to start attacking Darren when he's the chief exec of the business that runs the whole business, all right, football operations sits under it, and he can be criticised for the performance. But large swathes of our fan base, like Paddy, were very happy with the appointment of Mellon. And like you said, Matt, on paper, it seemed like a well-reasoned one given his history. So I don't see the points of the personal attack. And the other thing for me is setting that sort of that narrative and context can encourage people. Somebody personally went to confront Darren Royal at Dagenham away in front of his kids. I just think that's like behaviour which is totally unacceptable. And that sort of condition sets the context for people to feel empowered to be able to do that. Now, the reason Tamworth is probably at the outer reaches from London of a trip on a day for me with a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old. I couldn't really make much of a distance more than that. Birmingham beyond is probably about as far as I'll go in a day if I'm not staying at my mum's in Droylsden for a home game, for example. I chose not to go yesterday because I didn't want my kids to see it get toxic. And I just, they're too young and I don't want them to see it. And that was the reason I chose not to go. I probably would. I was in the lead up to last week. I was umming and ahhing after I watched Boston and the reaction to it and people wanting to go toxic. I'm like, I'm not going to take them because it's the other thing is it's a small ground and you're going to be mixed in. You can't, you're not sat away from that, and that's the reason I didn't go. And that's the other thing is it will affect people's. I'm not going because the football's crap, and it is crap. There's no doubt about that. I'm going because I don't want my kids to see it nasty. You know what I mean? And that's so when people are behaving like that, then it can have a wider effect. I just think it's daft.
It wasn't nasty yesterday.
Say again?
It wasn't nasty yesterday at all.
No, but it could have got that way. That's what I was getting at. I didn't know what the behaviour was going to be like, so I chose not to go because I didn't want my kids to see it get nasty in case it did.
I think he really does have to come in for some serious criticism. You mentioned about, obviously, we all know that the Unsworth was, like you said, a royal endorsement as such. Yeah. But in terms of Mickey Mellon, on your podcast at the start of the season, they both said that Darren Royal specifically phoned him to ask if he would be interested in coming in. The day he was appointed and he did the press conference, Frank Rothwell said that was the first time he met Mickey Mellon. So whilst on the whole it was probably a board decision, it's been seriously pushed by Darren Royal, this one. And I'd be interested if his surname was something other than Royal. Would you be more critical of the way he's overseeing this operation?
I think it depends. I think it depends on what you expected at this time, and the new owners have been. Darren was part of bringing the owners into the club, right? So that's where we are. Let's be honest about saving the club, right? So the club was on its arse. It needed a lot of investment. It needed a new team of people coming in to run it. After 3 seasons, where do people want us to be and expect us to be in terms of the club moving forward? If you'd said at the beginning of that process, you're bringing a manager, it's not going to work. You're bringing a second manager with all the promotions and all that, an experienced manager. You'll be in the playoffs in the 3rd season in the National League. Would people take that? Would they take the fact that the club was and the business was looking a lot healthier, and a lot more investment, a lot more infrastructure? The club can only move forward at a certain rate, and unfortunately, it's not as easy seemingly, because if it was, all clubs would be competing at the top of the league, and that's not possible. Or the gap between top and bottom would be like 2 or 3 points. So I don't want to underestimate how difficult a job it must be to turn a football club like Latics round in a short space of time. Would I like it to be better? Yes, absolutely. But are people going about things and doing it wrong? What's, specifically what is being done wrong that people are so angry about? That's my counter to that. I think that overall things are moving in the right direction. I think whether or not you think that it should be moving faster or things should be done a certain way, brilliant. I think that the fans that are critical, I think what they should be doing is, instead of like shouting to impress all their other mates in the schoolyard, what they should be doing is looking for solutions, drawing up proposals, business plans, going out, do something constructive. But if you feel that you know better than Darren Royal, or you feel that you can contribute more, than join OASF, put yourself forward, do stuff that's constructive, or you can go out and go on the piss and scream and shout. That's fine, but it's not going to actually do anything or do any good. So there's people that are Darren's trying to find solutions to take the club forward. The board are, other people are. Doesn't mean they're going to get it right. So, how much slack do we give people? It's not like we're now languishing down near the bottom of the table. I've noticed that Uncle Dickhead on Twitter is saying we should be not going to the games now. We should be boycotting. Where's the PTB? Well, we're 5th in the division, and the club has risen up the table since these guys took over. So, for me, it's not a crisis. We're not in crisis. When the next manager comes in, whoever it is, he's going to have a better infrastructure to work on, a better budget, better resources, better business, and we will keep going in the right direction. Now, if we're not going in the right direction quick enough for some people, that's just unfortunate. It's not quick enough for any of us. But having a shit fit about it at this stage for me doesn't do any good. Being critical and being constructive in your criticism is absolutely fine. So I think we've got to try and maintain that balance, and we all have a different view, and we all have a different opinion, but let's try and express them and communicate them amongst each other with a bit of respect for what people have achieved already.
In answer to Paddy's question, yeah, I think the name Royal and specifically what Darren's done probably means I give him a little bit more leeway than someone who doesn't. I think that's fair. I'll take that on. I think the interviews for the appointment of Mellon were done with Darren and Peter Norbury, I think. So this wasn't unlike Unsworth, who was specifically chosen by the Royals. I think there was board representation in people that they spoke to before an appointment was made. So it wasn't simply a Royal pick necessarily this time around.
But he oversees the football operations. Peter Norbury would have bowed to his greater knowledge, in inverted commas, around football, wouldn't he?
I don't think Peter Norbury would bow to anyone, having met him.
No, but in terms of football knowledge, I mean.
I don't know. He's gone now anyway. But look, the thing is, right, that people are going to get things right. They're going to get things wrong, right? That's life. People, as long as people are doing things with the right intentions, then I think you've got to give them a bit of slack. Now, the point is, we're still fifth in the division, and I know that people will be saying to me now, shout, yeah, but blah blah blah. I know. But like you've said, Paddy, and you said, Andy, to change the manager now would probably be more disruptive than keeping hold of the manager now. We're not fifth from bottom. We're fifth from top. And all right, we're very much limping or trying to limp over the line. But we've just got to get through to the end of the season and hope that it doesn't end up as a complete disaster, because there's not really anything else that we can do as fans, is there?
Matt, we're fifth in a very poor league, though, and we've had what was it 14 points at one point be clawed back, so that Altrincham, Halifax, and Rochdale all win their games in hand, and I know it's a big if. I do appreciate that. We will drop out of the playoff places. We should. I know,
but what you're saying now, Paddy, is that, like, you know, in terms of, so what you're saying is, because you said you change the manager at the end of the season, but you're not going to change it now, right? So all we can do is go to the games and try and encourage the team and get behind the team. Are you suggesting that come the end of the season there should be broader changes than just the manager?
Well, I think it's certainly something that needs to be reviewed. Like Andy said earlier, I'm sure there'll be a review at the end of the season, regardless. And it's certainly something that they need to look at, because essentially it's their money that is being flitted away. You know, and I'm saying that we're fifth in a poor league, and if teams win the games in hand, we'll fall out. Because to explain why people are getting frustrated, I mean, I'm quite laid back these days at the games. I don't really say much. I don't get involved in any of it, but I completely understand why people are getting frustrated. It didn't feel toxic at all yesterday. There were a few chants. There were a few chants against Royal, a few chants against Mellon, but it certainly, we weren't talking Harrogate levels.
Or Crew.
Rightly so. And listen, and rightly so. But it all has to start somewhere, doesn't it? It starts somewhere, and it starts with the same people starting the chants and all that. And we're all frustrated. It's not that they or anybody else has a monopoly on frustration. And just because some people go to more games than others doesn't make their opinions more valid than other people's either. So I think it's just, we all view things differently. I'm 47 years old, right? I'm not a kid. So I don't react like a kid, right? I'm a grown man. And so I react like a grown man. And I've got a bit of balance, and I know that it's not the end of the world. Other people react differently. And maybe they're younger and, you know, full of testosterone and booze and whatever, but, like, you know, it doesn't help in the grand scheme of things, because what's going to happen is going to happen. If Mellon's going to stay, he's going to stay. If he's going to get sacked, he's going to get sacked. You know, it will incrementally get worse if people are bringing that negativity into the terraces. And look, I'm not saying it's right or wrong. It's just the view. It's just my opinion. I don't think it's helpful. I would love the look, Boston there was no atmosphere, was there? Was it like that against Tamworth? It appeared to be that Latics fans were very, very quiet, uninspired by the performance, finding it difficult to get up for it. I understand all that. I was at Boston and I couldn't muster myself to sing and encourage the team, and that's on the team and that's on the manager. I'm not. People like to accuse us of saying that we're blaming the fans. I'm not blaming the fans for anything. I get the team get me up for it as much as I get the team up for it. You know, some games the team, the fans are incredible. Chesterfield away, for example, where you know we were bobbins who were under the cosh the whole game, but the fans got us through. It is a joint thing, and the fans aren't to blame for anything. I've never said that. I will target individual behaviour that I think is, you know, moronic or whatever, but.
When Paddy, at one stage, I think it's probably fair to say you were quite prolific with information on the internet.
Yeah.
in one way, shape, or another. Have you ever posted the team sheet that because I know you watch training sometimes where you're living close to the ground. Have you ever posted the team sheet on the internet the day before the game?
I don't think so. Are you going to tell me that I have? Because I really
no. I genuinely can't remember. But before I say, I mean, somebody did, didn't they? Somebody put the team sheet on the internet on Friday because they'd gone to watch training, and then when you see the team sheet get announced on Saturday, they were absolutely bang on. And you just think to yourself, that can't be helpful.
I think. Well, I don't know if that was more when it was put out on. Was it Friday? I think it was more along the lines of, I can't believe he's picking this team tomorrow.
Mm.
And I mean, to the extent that I think I texted you as well, Andy, about it, and said I cannot imagine that is the way that we're going to line up tomorrow. And then, sure enough, it was.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I don't think that anybody from Tamworth's going to be looking at Oldham's fans.
You'd assume not. But I still don't think it's great. Like, you know, don't put a team out on the fucking internet. Come on. I mean, like, it just seems a bit of a daft idea, really. I just think.
I mean, obviously, someone from Tamworth was watching, and they set their team up magnificently to counter Oldham yesterday. But
they'd have proper stitched us up if they didn't play Tonks. If Mellon set up all week to face that long throw in.
Well, they didn't play him at home, did they, when we beat him 4-0?
No.
Hey, do you know what? Actually, to be fair to him, he's a better footballer than I thought he was.
Yeah, no, he's not bad. He was involved in the goal, actually, weren't
Yeah.
he? Set the ball away. But look, the defending set pieces and things like that is not. You just have to get everybody back. And when you've got a long throw, it's not a long throw is easier to set up for than a quick throw because you've got time to actually get your men into position and stuff like that. So, yeah, I thought maybe that the interview was a bit. It seemed to me that the tone of his interviews has changed a little bit, and I think that's probably the sign of a man that is under pressure and maybe doesn't want to be as honest about his performances, either because he doesn't want to sort of dig his players out publicly at this stage in the season, or he's just feeling a bit defensive. You know, it probably is one of those two things. But look, the travelling support again was magnificent yesterday, considering the form that we've been in. But that's it for a few games now. It's back to Boundary Park, and I really don't know. So I spoke before about finding solutions to things. It's all very well being critical and having a go because it's easy to do that relatively. Paddy, with these 3 home games in mind and with the squad that we've got, if you were sitting there in the manager's office with your little whiteboard behind you, what would you be doing in terms of setting the team up to go out and pick up at least 7 points from the next 3 games?
I'd keep similar personnel, but just play them all 10 yards further forward, and get your better players on the ball. Get Jezzy's supposed to be fast. Get him stretching them. Tamworth and Boston, Jez and it was Pritchard were so narrow. They were meant to be as wide forward wingers, and they were so narrow, and they were so far away from Fondop. I think was it last week when Mellon had said about it being 3 up front and not 1 up front. That was also bollocks. Last week at home to Barnet was 1 up front. Tuesday was 1 up front, and yesterday was 1 up front until he brought Norwood on. Mm-hmm. He doesn't fancy Billy Waters. which begs the question, why has he brought him in? So we're going to play with the 4-2-3-1. So if Lundstrom's back, he needs to be in behind, get Lundstrom on the ball, and let's get at him from the beginning. They'll be petrified of Jez because apparently he played well for them. It must have been the only good games he's ever had in his career, but apparently he played well for them. So they'll be petrified of him.
He did all right against Braintree opening game of the season, didn't he?
Oh, brilliant. Fantastic. Give him a new deal.
Don't give him a new deal, no. I mean, Fondop can't do it on his own. He can't do it on his own because he's goosed and he's been asked to do too much and he's, all that. And he can't do it on his own because he isn't good enough to do it on his own. And that's part of the issue. So he needs help. They need to try to get Norwood fit and his attitude focused because he is the only player who's got a bit of class up there that might be able to do something if he's fit enough. If he's not, I mean, Norwood's not getting a new deal, is he? Not a chance with his injury record this season, and he's just not contributing for that money. So that's we haven't got. For me, we need more at the top end of the pitch, and we need to try and play at the top end of the pitch more. So yeah, further up the pitch, more strikers on the pitch.
They're not going to give him any more money for another striker now, are they?
Well, if we reportedly were prepared to offer Wigan $225 for Stones, and then whatever we were prepared to pay him, and York both paid $350 and way in excess of what we were prepared to pay. Now, I was fine with that at the time because it was still a big risk to spend 350 grand and a multiple of wages on a player that was still largely unproven. And I don't think he's gone to York and really set the world alight there either. He's still a kid. So my expectation was that they were going to redirect that money to another striker. Totally expecting that. And then they signed 27 midfielders and did all the money on the midfielders. Now that to me is what's catching us here is, Waters is not good enough. Worthington, from that handful of times I've seen him, nowhere near good enough. Loads of midfielders in, not enough striking options. And Mike Fondop can't do it on his own. So that is on Mellon, for sure. Mellon, McPhillips, Brabin, that is on them. They've made those decisions. It isn't Darren Royal who's made those decisions. He might sanction them. He isn't recruiting the players. That was specifically what Mickey Mellon wanted, to be in full charge of recruitment and to be a manager as opposed to the coach system where maybe he's given players. I don't know. But
when did that change, though? When did that change? Because in your opening podcast at the start of this season, Royal was involved in the recruitment side of it, as was the university lecturer that was mentioned in the same podcast. I think it was before the season started. So have we had a change of tact all of a sudden?
No, they're using the stats products that we've purchased to help inform information on which players to talk to. But the decision about who to sign is entirely down to Mickey Mellon and his coaching staff. They also said that on the podcast.
Look, at the end of the day, the manager's the one who's going to cop for it one way or the other, innit? If it doesn't work, because once you've got the thing is, once you've got the players, you've got to work with them and you've got to make them better. And I think one of the things that has been levelled at Mickey Mellon quite rightly, I think, over this season is which players has he improved? Which players get better when they come into the squad and into the system? And it's
you'd probably say the two players that spring to mind that he's improved are Lundstrom and Fondop. So you got to remember, Mike Fondop at the end of last season was released and then re-signed, and it wouldn't be unfair to say he was a bit of a liability the year before we send ins off. And then this season, he's been loads better, best he's been probably, and that you can credit Mellon for that. And Lundstrom playing him higher up the pitch, and he's contributed more. He's had a rocky patch, hasn't he, recently, Lundstrom? But for a period, he was very good, and that's probably down. But those are probably the only two players, aren't they? Really, realistically.
Yeah, and the signings that he brought in, and the way the team were playing. Well, I think we've played well for about 25% of the season, haven't we? We started the season, we weren't great, but we were drawing too many games and that, and then we went on a run, and that's obviously got us to where we are now in the table. But since then, we've regressed, and I think that's the issue. I think that's the issue that fans have, is that we've picked up and then we've regressed, and the manager hasn't been able to to halt that regression and fix it and react. It's just plateaued. We've gone down. We've reached a point in our performances, and that has now been consistent for a number of months. So, we go around in circles. We're talking about this over and over again now. There's not really anything else to say on it. It is what it is. It's up to Mickey Mellon now to get the best out of the players he's got. That's his job, to pick up points and to keep us in the playoffs. End of story.
And so on that note, should we put Paddy through his paces, and should we see how he reacts and see how many points he can pick up on his attempts at this year's Latics Mind?
Paddy, having the memory that you have, can you give us all? Can you relay your previous points tallies on Latics Mind since your first appearance?
I got 7. I think I was the first person to actually do it. The first year,
you were, yeah.
And then last year I got 11, but obviously I know what Andy's done with questions.
I haven't. I promise. There are a couple of tricky ones in here. I've got to be honest, but I haven't stitched them up. They're exactly as they come out of the Paul Prendergast computer.
Paddy, integrity is one of our key values here at We Are Oldham Dedicated Fan Media, so we wouldn't dream of doing that. Right. Well, good luck beating your not your personal best and the personal the record score on Latics Mind.
Which goalkeeper had 2 loan spells with Latics in the 2009-10 season?
Flahaven.
Correct. Who scored Latics' 3rd goal at home to Braintree this season?
Fondop.
Correct. Which fullback did Latics sign from Bradford City in October 1998?
Pass.
Which homegrown young defender made his Latics debut as a late substitute in a 3-0 defeat at Sheffield Wednesday in 2012-13?
Tarkovsky.
It was Glenn Belazika. Which Latics striker was forced to retire from the pro game through injury in 1996?
Only.
Correct. Who scored Latics' first 2 goals in League 2 in 2018?
Gardner.
Correct. Which goalkeeper did Latics loan from Manchester City in the 2003-2004 season?
Kevin Westwood.
Correct. Which centre-back did Latics sign from Amsterdam Football Club in 2005?
Stam.
Correct. Which talismanic midfielder did Latics sign on loan from MK Dons in late 2015?
I've forgotten his name. Foreign player. Pass.
Which Antiguan and Barbadian striker made a handful of appearances for Latics in the autumn as 2016?
Fuller.
No, it was Callum Geraldo Martin. Which left-back signed from Sheffield Wednesday had a brief spell with Latics in 2009?
Gilbert.
Correct. I've started, so finished. I've just started to ask the last question. Which striker did Latics sign from Hull City in the spring of 2005?
Facey.
Correct. Top work. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
2 passes. Which fullback did Latics sign from Bradford City in October 1998? It was Ian McLean.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Of course, obviously.
Ian McLean. What was your second pass? Yeah, the foreign-sounding name from MK.
Rasulo or something like that.
Rasulo, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you going to let me have that?
No.
No.
Very good work. Very good. I mean, Peter Gilbert, I'd have never got that. That's brilliant, that.
So that's
I'm
that
married
was
with children, you know, Andy.
that's the top score for this season so far, I think, is it?
Yeah, 8 top score for this season. I think we've had 4 before that, so that tops
No,
this season.
I think we've had more than that. We had 5 or a 6, haven't we?
Well,
I think.
maybe a 5, yeah. Maybe a 5.
But
Very good.
Yeah. See, there you go, Paddy. There was no tomfoolery in the questions. There was some tricky ones in there, though, for sure.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I managed to get through. Excuse me. Managed to get through an hour without crying. Although it's not been particularly inspiring either, has it?
It's difficult, isn't it?
So, Paddy, what's your prediction? How do you think the season's going to pan out?
I think we'll make them, and it wouldn't surprise me if we went up, but I'd still get rid of him if we did.
Is that your heart rule in your head there, Paddy?
No. I think on our day we can beat everybody in the league. It just depends.
When's this form going to kick in though? Because this form's going to have to kick in order to keep us in the playoffs pretty quickly.
Yeah, well, it needs to start Tuesday, doesn't it? If it doesn't start Tuesday, if we don't win Tuesday, if we're not ahead within 10 minutes on Saturday, I think it could really turn.
I just don't see where the goals are coming from. I just don't think we've got enough attacking threat. We haven't got enough strikers on the pitch at any one time. And so that's my worry. Not signing another striker when we lost Stones and Noel got injured, I think he's, with the benefit of hindsight, looks like a bad decision. I think we'll limp into the playoffs. And Paddy's right; it could go either way. But at the minute, I don't fancy us. But then it comes down to, I didn't expect us to win the league this year because of the overhang of, we talked about. We've got 7 strikers on our books. 3 of them out on loan, 2 of them perpetually injured, and the final 2, he never fancies them both really. So I never expected to win the league. I predicted 5th at the start of the year. You predicted 4th. Or did I say 4th and you said 5th?
Yeah, I think I said
4th, you said 5th.
That way around, yeah.
So we're about at the minute on for where we expected. Well, it would take a monumental change in form now, wouldn't it, to see us?
I figured that there would be teams that were in the ascendancy that were going to be better than us this season. I'm disappointed at the gulf in quality between those teams at the top and where we are. I think that's. You
look at the points difference now between us and Barnet. It is way too much, isn't it? And it is the gulf that's the problem. Yeah. I agree.
And I think that if we'd have signed Stones and Norwood had been injured, which he is, I don't think we would have got. It would have been Stones and Fondop, and that's it. Stones and Norwood would have been the key to us. From that point, having a brilliant strike partnership. I think Norwood is still the key to the season ending well or not. I think we need him, but it just seems like it's one step forward, 2 steps back with him. He comes on, like you mentioned that you thought you saw him pull up yesterday, Paddy. Yeah. So did yesterday actually do him more harm than it did the team good? Is the question. It seems like a big risk putting him onto that 4G pitch when you've got Billy Waters on there who, let's face it, with the way that we were playing, you might as well have stuck the lone keeper Dennis up top alongside Fondop because it wouldn't have really made any difference. So, was that a good move to throw him on yesterday when you've got these 3 important home games coming up? If it's actually putting back in his progression. So I think Norwood for me is absolutely key. I think if we can get him fit and get him playing, get him scoring goals. Then we'll probably stay in the playoffs, and we might have a chance come what may.
I think if you're looking at like a sliding doors moment, you've got to be looking at the Boxing Day game being called off. We'd come away from Braintree, and I know it was only Braintree, but we absolutely battered them. We had Clucas playing well. We had Stones, who was still with us at that time. I think we'd have beaten them on that day. And the ironic thing is, if that game hadn't been moved to 5:30 kickoff, it would have gone ahead.
Yeah.
It was only later on that the fog started to descend, and quite literally, in terms of our season. And then it seems to have just capitulated since then.
Yeah.
I also wonder whether Norwood would have been as injured in the new year as he has been if we had have signed Josh Stones, or whether he's somehow been more fit to be on the pitch more regular than he has been. But obviously, who's to know? But I do think that's our sliding doors moment, because everybody was so up for it. I was in the fans bar when it came through that it had been called off. We had lots of family that were coming to the game. Obviously, it was Boxing Day, big football day, and that's really stopped us in our tracks, because then we went to Hartlepool and we were a shambles, and then we were stop-start for a little bit after that, and then we've ended up cramming all these games in, and it's been torturous. So even the games we've won, Andy, with Solihull, weren't we? And
yeah,
even games we've won have been, I've been to more enjoyable funerals, really.
Yeah, it was a terrible performance. Yeah.
It's a good point about that game. But it is what it is, and who knows why? As much as that was, we all fancied it. We might, we probably would have beat York that day, or we certainly would have given much better of account of ourselves than we did when we did eventually play them. Who knows why it all went so disastrously wrong after it? It's because when we did come back against Hartlepool on New Year's Day, we had the same players, didn't we? We had the same team. It wasn't any different. We had Klukas in the squad. We had Stones in the squad. There was nothing different, but it just seemed, for whatever reason, that the crest of the wave had broken, and we've not recovered since. So
they all knew they were going then, probably by that point, didn't they? They'd all worked out where their futures lay, probably.
Maybe that was it. But anyway, it is what it is. We are where we are. One thing I know for sure in football is that if we come away from these 3 games at home with 9 points in the bag, everybody will be a lot happier and the mood will be completely different. So that's the challenge that we lay down to Mickey Mellon and the players. You've got to make it happen. It's up to you now. Thanks for getting involved, Paddy. Well done on Latics Mind on getting your second best score there today. Not bad. Pretty consistent there, I'd say. I mean, double figures every time would be, probably what you're after. But maybe next time you'll manage double figures again. Still excellent. Thanks, Andy.
The Ian McLean one, really. That's my bread and butter, Ian McLean. So
unbelievable. Just like to reiterate what Paddy says. He does have a wife and children. He's just got one of those minds, a Latics mind. Right. Thanks for listening, everybody. Thanks for joining in, guys. And we'll see you on Thursday for the post-Eastleigh dissection. Let's hope it's a good one. See you later.
Hey Dave, did you know that listeners can now buy us a coffee or any other kind of hot beverage?
Ooh.
What's your favourite hot beverage, Dave?
A macchiato.
And how do you like your macchiato?
Black with lots of milk. Oh.
No cream?
No.
Well, if you want to buy Dave a
macchiato,
then go to buymeacoffee.com/We Are Oldham. I'll just have a Nescafe.
Oh. Thank you, listeners.